This is a story about Greenland, Vikings, walruses, and a random rock I showed you in a field that I told you is called a glacial erratic. So, Eric the Red was not a very nice guy. He got exiled from Norway and Iceland for committing murder, and he shows up in Greenland in the year 984. Now, at the time, nobody else lived in Greenland, and he was feeling a little lonely, so he named it Greenland to convince other people to go and join him. And it worked, and pretty soon a Viking civilization was started. In Greenland, the Vikings kept up many of the same traditions as in mainland Europe. There would be a priest sent over every couple of years to live in Greenland. They farmed, they raised cattle and sheep, and one of their main sources of income was to go out onto the open ocean and catch walruses, and then sell the ivory to rich people in Europe. Though life was chilly in Greenland, it proceeded relatively nicely for around 400 years until the climate began to change. In 1400, something called the Little Ice Age began, and this was not a true global ice age like we think of with glaciations, but it was a regional cooling that was enough to make it impossible for resupply shipments to come from the mainland, and also for the Vikings to get out onto their boats and be able to catch walruses. The growing season got shorter, life got harder, and within a couple of decades, all of the Vikings in Greenland were gone. So what does this have to do with glacial erratics that you might find in the upper Midwest? I recently made a video talking about the Ice Age and how glaciers radically shaped the geology and the topography that we see in Minnesota. And whenever I talk about global climate change, there's a tendency for people to think, climate change is natural and therefore nothing that I need to worry about. As a frame of reference, the coldest point of the most recent Ice Age happened from 20 to 26,000 years ago, and the world was about 11 degrees Fahrenheit colder then than it is now. It gradually began warming after that, and by the time we got to 11,000 years ago, Minnesota was ice-free. But caveat being that there was actually a massive global extinction at the end of the Ice Age where we lost the woolly mammoth, ground sloths, and all sorts of other megafauna. During the Little Ice Age, in contrast, the global average temperature was only about 1 degree different than it is today, but that small change was enough to drive the Greenland Vikings to extinction. Throughout human history, there are examples of societies that have adapted in order to survive or failed to adapt and collapsed as a result. If we look back at those Greenland Vikings, for example, during the same period of time that they died, there was also Inuit people living on the north part of the island that were able to survive because they had adapted their lifestyle to more successful strategies. So yes, global climate change has happened throughout the history of the world, but also not without extreme impacts to species, including humans. Behooves us, if we hope to keep living, which I think most of us do, and we adapt our lifestyle to be more sustainable and more likely to succeed.